let's talk about, I mean, Alabama. That defense. It's been kind of smelly. It's been kind of stinky. South Carolina gave them an absolute barn burner of a game right there. If it wasn't for Lenore's Sellers, just kind of airmailing it there. I mean, South Carolina absolutely could have won the game. People are talking about, that play call at the goal line or the 2-point conversion. I don't know. I don't care that much about the play call. What matters, I think, here is moving forward for both of these teams. Alabama does not have it easy the rest of the way, especially if their defense is going to play that bad. Because we talked about, what does South Carolina need for their offense to produce? They need explosive plays, right? By the way, where's Nick Harbor been all season? And why do they just trust him all of a sudden on the last drive?
Here's what I'll say about him. Freak athlete, very high potential. I do not think he's like a good receiver yet, right? Like I think he's got, that's his play. He's 6'5", he's huge, and he's fast.
Runs a 10-1, 100-meter.
Go up and high point the ball. That's kind of his role in this offense here. Now, why they aren't doing it more, because Sellers obviously has the arm. You need to create some kind of deep threat, some kind of way to push the defense back away from you so you can get Sanders going, so you can get Sellers going, and Oscar Attaway as well, and open up room for your guys like Bennett and, Jacobs and Larvadain, guys like that, to be able to get over the middle. I don't know. It was awesome. Great catch. Big time spot. Good throw. Great throw. Yeah, I don't know why it's not more often, but in terms of him being an actual 8 catch, 120-yard guy, not right now. That's not his game, but that is his game though. The vertical threat, go route, deep post, right, jet sweep, something like that. Get the ball in his hands and make him make plays, because you're either going to get a penalty, potentially pass interference, or you give him a chance to make a play, and he's got a real good chance to do it.
So what's wrong with this Alabama defense right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think they're hurting themselves. Okay, right. I think the penalties you are seeing on third down, right, they are just really, really hurting what they can do, and for a team that's struggling to get off the field on third and especially fourth down, when you do make a stop, having stupid penalties, having roughing the passer here and there, those things kill you, and you give teams chances to extend plays or whatever, or you get a chance where South Carolina was third and 18, right? Fourth and 9 on the touchdown to Bennett early, right? Their first touchdown was 4th and 9. And then that first drive coming out of half, 16 plays, 85 yards, took 8 minutes and 40 seconds off the clock, right? You had 3rd and 6, and then you let Sellers get out of the pocket and scamper for a touchdown. 3rd and 15, Bennett got open again, 22 yards. These are things that you're not used to seeing, right, from Alabama historically, right? We saw some of that with Pete Golding. Savannah fans it's not some new thing, but it is concerning because I think you're hurting yourself. And then secondly, too, and I love Milroe, and I love this offense. I love DeBoer, but the aggressive nature that they play, and that's their identity. I'm not going to question DeBoer about it, but I do think it puts their defense in tough spots at times, right? We saw when, Bama had the safety, right? And you give South Carolina good field position, and then you throw the interception and you give good field position. And yeah, I mean, you had the interception in the second half again. And then you obviously their defense made big time stops when you needed them to. I will say I was more impressed with their defense than I thought I was going to be, right? Throughout the game, I was like, get off the field, don't do that penalty. But then it's looking back and digesting, it's they were put in some tough spots. They made some big time plays. They had obviously, Sellers missed the 2-point conversion, and it wasn't a great play defensively, but you got in his face. You got some kind of pressure going. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it was a tough win. I think it was a tough win. Obviously concerning. They're not flawless, absolutely not. But it also looks like a team that is figuring out a new coaching staff, a new coaching style, a new playbook, a new scheme, culture, all these other things. It's still year one. Yes, the players are talented, but yeah, that's my takeaway.
Well, Alabama, believe it or not, on third down, is actually 23rd in the country in getting off the field on third down. But that stat doesn't include penalties. And I don't know what the stat is for third down penalties, but Alabama is 119th in the country, giving up 72 yards or 72.2 yards of penalties per game. So, yeah, the discipline there, I would definitely agree with you 100%. Yeah, I don't know, because Georgia's kind of shredding everyone in the secondary right now. Vanderbilt, still is playing really well offensively, and they're, really interesting. Different offense is something that a lot of these SEC teams haven't really faced. And Tim Beck is just absolutely lighting it up over there, the OC for Vanderbilt. Yeah, I'm not out on this defense, but yeah, it's concerning for sure. I'm a little bit more concerned. I'm more concerned about Georgia's secondary right now because of their matchup next week, right? Tennessee, their offense has struggled a lot. If you can stop the run like Bama has done all year, by the way, Bama's done a good job stopping the run. Now, there were some explosive run plays in the Vanderbilt game, but I think generally it was the pass game that kind of sold you, or that kind of lost you that football game. Those big explosive plays, those third down conversions, I think that's what lost you the game against Vanderbilt. But the run defense has been really good. If you can shut down Dylan Sampson next week, then all of a sudden you still only have one SEC loss, and you still got a chance. You have your tiebreaker over Georgia, who also has an SEC loss and might have another one, coming up. I do think Alabama still, to a degree, they don't control their own destiny yet because, Texas A&M and Texas both haven't lost yet in the SEC, and they don't play either of those teams this year. But Alabama there's still a lot of their goals in front of them here, but like you said, I think playing a complementary offensive defense is important, and they're not really doing that in terms of, like you said, these quick drives, not being able to run the ball that effectively,
turnovers.
It hurts you a lot, and it hasn't been every game like that. But these last 2 weeks for Alabama, it certainly feels like the offense has put the defense in bad situations as well. But yeah, the defense has not been good, but we could see it improve. We could. And like, if they're getting off also the other stat is teams are 70% on fourth down against Alabama, right? And also to Alabama being who they are, right? Teams are more inclined to go for it on fourth down, right? Against a team like Alabama. And when you're giving up first down in 70% of opponents' fourth down plays, that doesn't help, right? That does not help. So, yeah, still a lot to look forward to for Alabama moving forward. In terms of South Carolina, they still have a gauntlet schedule the rest of the way. Getting to a bowl game is going to be tough, and they're going to have to rely on that defense, and they're going to need to force turnovers, and Lenore Sellers needs to do a better job taking care of the football.
Yeah, I mean, this is another woulda, coulda, shoulda, right, for them. We talked about LSU, we talked about Alabama, and their games they had with them where you potentially outplayed them. You just put yourself in bad spots, right? Turnovers, penalties in this game, just lack of execution at times. It was tough. It was really tough. And obviously for South Carolina, if at the beginning of the year you're like, hey, we're going to take LSU and Alabama to the wire, right? Push them to the limits. You've been like, yeah, absolutely. But again, like, how you don't love moral victories, right? Shane Beamer doesn't love moral victories. Like, it's about time you want to see some winning this year for them in these big time games. And they're going to have plenty, like you said, moving forward. I think the Oklahoma game next week is really interesting because the way Oklahoma is struggling offensively and how good your front seven is. Now, we'll see how Sellers does against another pretty damn good defense, especially in that front there for Oklahoma. It'll be interesting. Like you said, though, I was a little bit more encouraged. Sellers made some big throws on third downs, like big time throws, or even, second and longs, whatever it was, like throwing across the middle, finding some of these guys. Bennett is really emerging as a guy that's kind of go-to on some big, obvious passing downs, and they're scheming up good things for him, and good things are happening. Sanders still missing some kind of juice, man. I know he wasn't always like the fastest burner, right, at Arkansas, but he used to have that get in the way speed, that second gear he could really get into, and you're just not seeing it. And also, by the way, those tackles for South Carolina, I know they're young, I know they're talented, and I know Bama, by the way, has a pretty good defensive line, and I think pass rush, edge rushers, they're pretty darn good. And also, like, Kane Womack, throws blitzes at you. It was tough at times. Now, they made some big-time adjustments in that second half or maybe second quarter and moving on, where you were chipping, where you were finding creative ways to give sellers some kind of time and ability to stand in the pocket and throw the ball. But when they know you have to throw the ball, holding up, right? A lot of things have to go right. This is why coaches love running the ball, by the way, because in order to complete a pass, a lot of things has to go right for you to be able to do it successfully and also consistently. So like that's the hard part, is being consistent all throughout your offense and sustaining drives with your passing attack, which is still obviously limited for South Carolina. Same thing for Oklahoma, same things for a lot of teams in the SEC. But yeah, tough loss. Frustrating, good fight. They got down early and they just fought back. And yeah, it's a shame, but what can you do? They remind me real quick. They remind me of like the Georgia Tech of the SEC, right? And when I say that, I mean kind of reverse in terms of like Georgia Tech's offense is like super, super frisky, and it's going to keep them in certain games that they do not belong in, or just going to give opposing teams absolute nightmares. In the same way that South Carolina's defense does that. For we've seen LSU, we've seen Kentucky, obviously we saw Alabama, in certain things that they've done that have caused turnovers, caused absolute headaches for these opposing offensive coordinators and offensive staffs. Is that crazy to say? Is that crazy comment?
Yeah, I could say, like the Texas A&M teams in the last couple of years. I mean, you've had some issues on defense, but in terms from a pass rushing perspective, and forcing turnovers, you can change a game on its head. But Texas A&M obviously struggled on the offensive side of the ball the last couple of years. I guess I could also compare it to that, but I think it's unique because it is such extremes. I think because their defensive line and defense is so extremely good at causing those mayhem plays. Uh, it's really interesting. Yeah, I that's a good thought. That's a good thought.